The whole book, the whole premise of the book was me discovering and talking about my 10-year very abusive marriage. So even though I brought the book out in 2018, you know, a lot's happened between 2018 to 2024. I'm recently engaged. I'm patron of Women's Aid. I got my MBE for talking about domestic violence and bringing awareness to it. So I just thought, you know, it's about time I updated the book. And also I wanted to point out that even when you leave your abuser, you know, you may think, okay, now I can relax. But actually, you start a whole other journey of self-discovery. You have to get rid of all the shame and the guilt, especially if there's kids involved. And unless we start talking about it and doing something about it, then it's not going to change anytime soon.
How cathartic was it for you when you originally brought out your memoir in 2018 with Louise Gannon? Was it a difficult decision to share such a personal story?
Yeah, it was very cathartic, but at the same time extremely scary for me, because I thought, well, this could essentially end my career, because I'm talking about something that nobody really wants to listen to. Nobody really wants to, you know, talk about this kind of stuff. And so it was a massive gamble. But if it wasn't for Louise and my mum and the support of my daughter, they've all got their chapters in the book, I don't think I would have been brave enough to release it. But my daughter and Louise and my mum were like, listen, if you don't bring this out, think about all those other women that you could be helping. So in my mind, I was like, right, as long as I'm helping somebody else. But in actual due course, I helped myself so much, because I got to tell my side of the story and I got to go into detail about what happened to me, because I was still very much in denial at that time. And it was only Louise piecing back my life together did I realise, number one, I've been abused on every single level. And if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. There's no age or race or amount of money, you know, when it comes to abuse. Abuse can happen to anybody, and it does.
Mel, I have to point out here to our audience that your ex-husband has denied the allegations.
Well, he's not only denied it, he's never sued me for the book. And my book's been out since 2018, so I think, because I am speaking so honestly, hence the book's called Brutally Honest, if there was any amount of lies in there, that would have been easy to sue me. But one thing about my book is it's not just my account of what happened to me, it's other people's account that were around me at the time, whether it be from my hair and makeup team, the driver, the accountant that was, you know, sorting out all the money to do with X Factor. If it wasn't for those people being so honest also, I don't know how honest I could have been with myself, because I was very much, you know, that didn't happen, or the PTSD would have gotten a hold of me. But, you know, thankfully, I'm speaking about it, and I'm speaking about it so clearly and so honestly that it can't be ignored, because it's not just me going through it.
Were you surprised by the response to the book?
Yeah, because I think when you've gone through abuse for that long and you come out of it, for a start, you don't think anybody's going to believe you. Hence, that's why you've never told anybody. You know, your life is separate from your work life to your home life. If you admit that to yourself, that means you're admitting it to everybody else. That's just too traumatizing, especially when there's kids involved also. So I took a stance to be able to speak about it, but speak about it in a way where everything was spoken about, from the self-medicating, from what roller coasters you go through, how many times I'd left, what happens when you do leave. You know, I think honesty is always the best policy, and I'm living proof that you can come out of it. Yeah, you've got the scars and stuff to show what you've gone through, but also the mental abuse and the mental trauma that you go through will never leave my side unless I work through it and I talk about it and I heal myself.
How difficult was it for you to describe all of that, knowing that all your fans around the world see you as this global icon, Spice Girl, girl power, and yet there you are saying actually you were powerless?
I was completely girl powerless. But my saviour was my work, because at work he wasn't around me, he couldn't come near me, and I was being hired for me. I was on the biggest show in America, America's Got Talent. I was doing shows in Australia, The Masked Singer, doing shows everywhere. So I felt very confident in who I was at work, but then behind closed doors, it was a completely different story. And the more I spoke about it and the more I spoke to other survivors, that is what you live in. You live in that fight or flight zone all the time at home. Then when you're at work, you can actually breathe for a second. That's why I did a talk a few years ago about getting HR to actually understanding the workplace, how to spot somebody going through abuse and actually help them safely remove themselves from that situation. Because not many women make it out, or they go back for whatever reason, whether it be they've been coercive controlled, financially abused. I mean, I was all of them. And like I said, I left 6, 7 times. And then when you leave, it's like, well, where do I go? Because you've been isolated for so long. You know, your family and your friends have been removed from you bit by bit. And before you know it, you don't even have your own credit card, your own phone. So you are literally isolated and lost. And that's what these abusers do. And, you know, no matter what survivor I've spoken to, they all say the same story. Like these abusers, they come in like Prince Charming or Queen Charming, because it happens to men too, and same-sex relationships. And they just like love bomb you, so you think this person is just the most exquisite, special, best thing that's ever happened to you, but they all have a game plan and they all do the same thing over time. So what I say is that if we know what they do, which they all do the same thing, we can educate ourselves. So you'd be surprised, and I know people that have read the book that have said, I didn't actually realise I was in an abusive relationship, but I am. So my challenge now is educating kids, educating the school system so that people know what a healthy relationship looks like, and also educating the justice system, because especially if you have kids and you leave your abuser, then you get abused all over again in the court system, because the justice system doesn't support men and women that have gone through that or that have left their abuser. So it's about re-educating. So the more I can bring awareness to it, I mean, I had a talk with the Met Police not so long ago. They're now infiltrating like a system where they can spot it, because they'll turn up to a house that has, you know, got domestic violence call that's come in, and then they'll end up taking away the victim, not the abuser, because they're so good at manipulating the situation.